I woke up from routine surgery with a police officer standing at the foot of my bed and my hands zip-tied to the rails. What is this? My mouth was dry, my head still swimming from the anesthesia. The officer didn't answer. A woman in scrubs I didn't recognize stood near the door with her arms crossed, watching me like I was something dangerous. My actual surgeon, Dr. Whitfield, was pacing near the window, not looking at me at all. A detective walked in a few minutes later carrying a folder. He set it on the rolling tray beside my bed and opened it to a photograph. Recognize this? It was a photo taken during my gallbladder surgery, except instead of my gallbladder, the image showed something else entirely. A tightly wrapped bundle tucked against my abdominal wall, sutured in like it had always belonged there. We pulled 60 grams of methamphetamine out of your body an hour ago, the detective said. You want to explain how that got there? I couldn't speak. My chest felt like it was collapsing in on itself. I've never touched drugs. I don't even drink. That's what everyone says. He flipped to another photo, close up on the stitching. This wasn't old. Whoever did this did it during today's procedure. I looked over at Dr. Whitfield, whose jaw was tight, arms folded, refusing to meet my eyes. Something about the way he was standing, too still, too rehearsed, made my stomach twist harder than the incision did. I want a lawyer, I managed. They didn't cuff me further, but they didn't uncuff me either. 2 hours later, I was formally arrested, wheeled out of recovery in a hospital gown with an officer on either side of the gurney, past co-workers and nurses who wouldn't look at me. My public defender met me at the county jail intake desk, flipping through my file like he was already bored of it. Trafficking with intent, given the weight. You're looking at serious time if this sticks. It's not mine. I didn't do this. That's the position we'll take, he said, in a tone that told me he'd heard those words 1,000 times from 1,000 people and believed none of them. I spent 2 nights in a holding cell going over every detail of that day, trying to find the thread that connected me to something so absurd. Then I remembered. 3 weeks earlier, I'd had an ultrasound at an urgent care clinic for the same abdominal pain that eventually sent me to Whitfield. I told my lawyer. He didn't seem to care much, but he pulled the records anyway, mostly to close out the file faster. The ultrasound came back clean. No foreign object, nothing abnormal, just a straightforward case of gallstones that any surgeon would recognize. When my lawyer brought this to the detective's attention, something shifted. They pulled the surgical suite's security footage, audio-less, overhead, grainy, and reviewed it frame by frame. It showed Dr. Whitfield, mid-procedure, reaching to a tray outside the standard instrument set, holding something small and wrapped, before turning back to the operating field. The timestamp put it seconds before the discovery that had triggered his 911 call. 2 days later, the detective came to my cell himself to cut the zip-tie replacement cuffs off my wrists. We re-interviewed him. His story didn't hold up once we had the ultrasound and the footage together. He's being charged now. You're free. I walked out into the parking lot not understanding a single piece of what had just happened to me, only that it was over. It took another month, after I filed a complaint with the state medical board and a civil suit against the hospital, before I learned why. Dr. Whitfield's wife had worked the front desk at the clinic where I'd gotten my ultrasound. Months before any of this, she'd struck up a strange, overly familiar friendliness with me during a visit. Nothing I encouraged, nothing I ever acted on. And eventually, her husband discovered a string of messages she'd sent me on her personal phone. He assumed, wrongly and completely, that something had happened between us. Instead of confronting her, or confronting me directly, he waited for an opportunity. When I was scheduled onto his surgical roster weeks later, he saw his chance to make me disappear into the system quietly, guilty before I ever had a chance to explain anything. He's since lost his license and is awaiting trial on evidence tampering, false imprisonment, and drug charges of his own. I still don't know what happened to his marriage, and I don't especially care. What I know is that I spent 2 nights in a cell for a crime that existed only because one man needed somewhere to put his anger, and he chose the inside of my body to do it.